Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Burns, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Library Commission's weekly online event where we cover anything that may be of interest to librarians across the state. We have NLC staff, commission staff that do presentations, and we bring in guest speakers as we have this morning. I'll get to that in just a minute. We do these sessions every Wednesday morning live at 10 a.m. Central Time, and they are recorded. So if you're unable to join us live on a Wednesday morning, that's perfectly fine. You can watch any of our little over 2 years worth now, 2.5 years worth of recorded sessions that we have on our website. And they are all available on our archived NCompass Live Sessions link here at the bottom of beneath our upcoming sessions, and you've got a whole list here of everything that we've ever done on NCompass Live. This morning, as I said, we have a guest speaker, and I'm going to unmute just for a second here. Jennifer Koerber, who is from Boston Public Library, is joining us this morning. Jennifer, can you say hi?
Hi, good morning, Krista. How are you doing?
Great. I haven't muted you. We can hear you. Awesome.
Excellent.
I'm doing great. And Jennifer's going to talk to us about some of you have maybe participated in a 23 Things type program or a Learning 2.0 program. I know we have an ongoing program here in Nebraska for our librarians, and other places have done it. She's working on one that is something that some other places are also working on. It's a newer version of it, doing a version of it for patrons. And she's going to talk about how that's all gone down. Whether it has or hasn't. So hold on just a second. I am going to switch over control.
Can you see me now?
You should have a little pop-up saying to share your screen.
Yep.
Yep, there we go. We see your PowerPoint. There you go.
Excellent.
Yep, you are all set. Okay.
Excellent. Very good. Anything else, or should I just get rolling?
No, that's all I want to say for an intro, because I'll leave it up to you to tell about everything you've been doing.
Alrighty, sounds
Go
good.
right ahead. Yep.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Koerber. I am a web services librarian here at the Boston Public Library in what is fortunately and finally a sunny, if still chilly, morning in Boston. And
yeah, it's raining and going to snow here, so.
Well, we had snow on Halloween.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, you got that.
We did get that. We got that beautiful nor'easter come through a little bit early. We're not supposed to get those quite yet.
No.
It ended up being a lovely evening for many at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and it's better today. So.
Okay, cool.
So, today I'm going to talk about, as you see on your screen, Learning for Life Online at the Boston Public Library. And for all the musical theater fans out there, it is the very model of a Public 2.0 program. Come on, behave. There you go. Originally, I did a 23 Things style program for library staff in Massachusetts in 2008, called it 26.2 Things in Boston, in reference to the marathon. And it was a very small pilot program. We had about 30 people originally signed up, 17 finished, and every single one of the 17 who finished gave it rave reviews. And this gave me the confidence, shall we say, and interest in the beginning of the idea to start bringing this past library staff to the general public, because my background is that before I became a web services librarian, I was everything from a children's librarian to a reference librarian to a brief stint as a branch manager here in Boston. And so I have a very strong background of working directly with the public. And so as soon as I did this for library staff, I decided that it would make a lot of sense for me to try and figure out a way to bring this out to the public, because I felt that as all the positive things that the staff had to say about the program were things that the public would have to say as well. And if you aren't familiar with what a 23 Things style program is, it is a completely online training program that is meant to introduce various social computing and emerging technology tools to participants in a way that makes it easy for them to just get little bits and little introductions and just that little bit of hand-holding that allows them to continue to explore those types of things on their own. So it's not meant to be comprehensive. It's not meant to be getting anybody towards mastery of these things, but it is meant to get them going. It's meant to get them started and curious and interested in poking at these things. And also to take this, mind-boggling number of things that are out there and reduce it down to just a thing or two or three a week, and become very manageable. And the 23 Things style program does that remarkably well. And I wanted to start out, as I said, taking it to the public, and specifically take it to the public no matter where they are. Because we have folks who come into trainings in our buildings and they get a lot out of that, but there are a lot more folks who either can't, and yes, Massachusetts is far smaller than Nebraska, but it's still the same reasons exist. People are too busy, they're not available when the libraries are open, they work, they have families, they have other priorities that keep them from being able to attend in-person, in-house trainings. And this is another way to reach those folks and to give them that structure and to give them that learning platform in which to find out more about these online programs and tools and services. Why social media? Why focus on social media and emerging technologies instead of basic computer type stuff? Well, it's really hard to do basic computer training over the web. There are some fun sites that will help you practice, but basic computer training and any kind of really detailed computer training is still best done in person by and large. Social media, on the other hand, is all about sharing your experience. It's all about sharing and talking about stuff online, and so it makes for a perfect platform to continue to talk about stuff online. And the justification for all of this is that, as the screen says, more than half of the people aged 12 and older have a profile on Facebook, and nearly 1 in 5 visits social networking sites several times per day. This is from Arbitron. There are a number of different sources for these kinds of statistics. Arbitron is one. The Pew Internet and Life program is another. But the pervasiveness, this social media is not something that's going away. People thought it would. People thought Facebook was frivolous. People thought Twitter was frivolous when it first showed up. It's not anymore. It's becoming a part of life. You can put comments in on articles on newspaper sites. You can use YouTube videos in classrooms. You can do all of this stuff. All of that is bringing this social computing into people's lives on a daily basis. And so it's important to respond to that and to try and provide some guidance and or training in our buildings and hopefully online to supplement people's needs and interests in this stuff. This is one of my favorite visualizations of this. And every 60 seconds, all of this stuff happens. 13,000 iPhones apps are downloaded, 70 domains are registered, almost 700,000 search queries happen on Google and elsewhere, 6,600 new pictures are uploaded on Flickr. All of this happens every single minute. Let me absorb that for a second. Every single minute. That's how much new stuff gets put out there and how interactive people are being with this social media.
That is very impressive, especially needs to be seen by those people that think any of this social stuff is frivolous or boring or a waste of time.
And more importantly, or affecting just a very small number of people.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not anymore. How many obviously I can't see you raise your hands, but kind of mentally raise your hand. How many people's moms are on Facebook?
Well, there is a hand raising in the interface actually, if you guys want to. Yep, I can.
Sure, go ahead. Raise your hands
on the interface if you want to. If you're your mom, well, mine is. I know.
I know mine is. Yeah, it's how many people know. How many people have Facebook or something like it as a piece of how they keep in touch socially, particularly as we spread out as our families spread out, as we lose touch with people from college, from high school, from elementary school. It's becoming a way to keep that kind of loose social network going, and expand it even, and reconnect with people that we haven't talked to in 25 years. It is a piece of how people live nowadays. It's not all of how they live. Trust me, I am all in favor of getting away from computers and going out and enjoying the day. But this is a piece of how we live, and it's increasingly a piece of how we live. And so we recognize that and respond to it by offering this kind of training. If you need more reasons, as I mentioned, the Pew Internet and Life Project is a great place to find current statistics and current research that's being done in this field. And Nielsen and Arbitron, which are both statistical names that you, I'm sure, recognize, they are also looking at this. They're top 10s and trends from Nielsen, and the non-traditional broadcasting segmentation from Arbitron are great places to get statistics on usage. Because really, unlike some other things, or like some other things, social media is not a fad. It's a piece of our lives that became was introduced and then became a part of our lives and is going to continue to be a part of our lives, just like radio, just like television, just like personal computers, and just like Facebook. And you can see I'm actually logged in for this little Facebook image, so you see I've got Michael and Krista both friended on Facebook. It's one of the places I do my professional networking as well as my personal networking. Yay. So why us? Why libraries? As I said, it's just an extension of what we already do. We teach information literacy. Every time we conduct a reference question, every time we show someone how to find and evaluate information, and evaluate and find sources and tools, that's information literacy. That's something we do in every reference transaction, in every reader's advisory transaction, in every circulation transaction half the time, and it's something we can do online as well. It is another piece of lifelong learning. It is another way to offer workshops and lectures. It is a way to increase awareness and access to our own resources. As you'll see, one of the tools that I use in the program is our relatively new this year, social catalog. So a catalog that enables ratings and comments and embedded videos and creating lists and sharing things via social media. That's part of one of the services that we offer. Again, how many people have a Facebook page for their institution? All of this is a part of what we do as institutions and organizations, and by offering some kind of guidance in that, we can help increase awareness of and access to those resources. And again, libraries are part of what helps people learn how to navigate their world, and now we can do it both online and off. Why not? There are many reasons why not. Some of them are more valid than others. One of the reasons that I'm sure has been a major hesitation for lots of libraries in trying to offer this kind of online program to the general public is how well does it scale? The original program offered incentives. They offered MP3 players. They offered a raffle for a major prize at the end of the program. If everybody gets a prize, who's paying? That's real money that we're talking about there. When you could have a couple of thousand people involved in this program, how do you deal with incentives if you deal with them at all? Interaction. One of the key pieces of a training like this has always been the ability for the different participants to interact with each other and to talk to each other, whether through comments, whether through their own blog posts, whether through discussion forum, any of those various places. If you've got, again, 1,000 or 2,000 people participating, the possibility for different voices to get lost in the crowd increases. So you have to pay attention to that. Unpredictability. you really, when you've opened it to the general public, just as with our programs in our buildings, you have no idea who you'll get. You could get someone who is a master's in computer science and who just is looking to figure out what the latest hot fad is, or you could get someone who still doesn't know how to use a mouse effectively. You can run the gamut between the two, and you have no idea of the diversity of the levels of proficiency, the levels of skill, the levels of ability that you're going to get. And since you don't know, you can plan for it, kinda, but you have to be able to adapt to it in real time. You have to be able to adapt to it as you go. You have a complete diversity in culture, in language, in the kinds and types of technological access and technological machinery. If you're doing a program in your library, you know what kinds of computers people are using because they're yours. If they're using their own machinery, you don't know. And so again, something may not be functioning properly on someone with a Chrome laptop. Someone with a Chrome laptop may have a different view of what your pages look like than someone using Firefox as their browser. All of that diversity changes the proposition. And then finally, accountability. When you're opening things up to the general public, what happens when the online troll arrives and starts causing ruckus? How do you hold people accountable for their behavior? How do you hold yourself accountable for your oversight of all of this? Who holds you accountable for all of this? Every single reason on this screen is a reason not to do this, is a reason that libraries have avoided this question, have avoided this kind of offering of training. My answer, just do it. Yes, all of those are very real concerns, and all of those are things that you have to think about before you engage in this process. It is part of the run-up to doing it, but it is not a stopping point. It is not a reason to not do it. It is just things to keep in mind as you do move forward and do it. So one of the important things to do as you're developing an online training program for patrons is choosing the structure. The original 23, because the structure will dictate what you can and can't do and how you can and can't do these things as far as what you're able to train and what you're able to provide. Originally, the basic tool for the 23 Things programs were blogs. They were the main program had a blog, every individual participant had a blog. The comments on the blogs, the posts on the blogs is where you found out what people were doing. The comments on the blogs is where people were interacting with each other, reading each other's blogs, all of this. The blog was the foundation. Blogs are good for this because they are sequential. You can have, if you're introducing a thing a week or 2 things a week, you can easily have a post a week, and it's very simple to keep track of. People can interact in comments. It's very easy because a lot of blog software is available for free. And you can do some really intense, complex stuff with now actually going beyond just a blog, but actually creating a website in something like Blogger or something like WordPress because the tools are free and they're out there. And it's relatively easy for participants to get. They may not have been online much, but they've probably seen something that looks like this at some point. And the idea of a weekly post that comes out and you read the post and then you click in the comment box, you type and you go, that's relatively straightforward. And so people understand that fundamentally. Unfortunately, it doesn't scale well because once you've got 1,000 people, that's 1,000 blogs you're monitoring if you're the organizers, and that's 1,000 blogs that they have to look at as participants and possibly comment on. So that doesn't scale fabulously. And very, very, very frequently, this kind of tool results in this kind of program results in abandoned blogs. I can tell you with absolute certainty that every single one of the blogs that were created for 26.2 Things in Boston it has been abandoned. They have not been kept up. So I'm not in favor of blogs as a platform for these programs anymore because I don't think that the benefits outweigh the potentiality for abandoned cruft on the internet, which I try to avoid at all possible cost. A wiki is a much more reasonable tool. It's great because it's a dip-in, dip-out format. It's extremely easy to use as a reference. Every page has a lot of tools have discussion forums on the pages, so you can talk on have a page per thing or a page per tool, and then have a discussion about that right there in the tool, right there in the wiki. Each participant can have their own single page in your wiki, which again results in fewer abandoned blogs. It's extremely self-contained. Everything's going to be just right in the wiki. It is possibly less adventurous. It really is a little too self-contained in some ways. And for some reason, wikis, for all that Wikipedia is out there and people get it, actually editing a wiki page is less intuitive for true beginners. I remember having a wiki for a potluck, kind of a monthly potluck that my husband and I were doing for a while, and I had one friend who just was very uncomfortable editing the pages to add what she was going to be bringing, because for some reason that felt like going into my house and rearranging my furniture, she said. There's some kind of mental disconnect for folks who are truly beginning on social media, that they may get caught up in that. There are tools out there that will let you create a social network. I know there's a library conference going on today, actually, called Library 2.0, and they've created a little social network. People can create pages, they can add photos, they have a forum, they have all these little self-contained social network, kind of like Facebook. It's kind of like creating your own little Facebook site just for the participants and members that you want to have access to it. It's extremely scalable because it is self-contained, and it's, you could use Facebook. You could use a little kind of section of Facebook for this. BuddyPress is a module for WordPress that will do the same thing. I used to recommend Ning. That's why it's there but crossed off. It still exists, but it is now ad-supported and fee-supported instead of free, and so I don't promote it as a tool because there is that startup cost to either you have to pay for it or you have to be okay with there being ads on your pages. You might be. That might be a thing that works for you, but it's why I don't kind of push it anymore as a tool to use. And then finally, if you're serious about this, if you're serious about doing online training, if you're serious about doing not just this kind of 23 things style online training, but more formalized online training for your patrons to the tune of full classes and workshops online, then you might want to start looking at a content management or learning management system. Anyone who's familiar with higher educational institutions, Blackboard is Blackboard and WebEx are two of the big ones, and that where you can create entire curricula online, and you can do it very modularly. So you can reuse, if you create a little Facebook lesson, you can reuse that Facebook lesson in multiple types of iterations of the program. So you could have a version of this online training program that is for seniors. You could have another version that is for young parents, or you could have another version that is for job seekers. You could have a version that's specifically for job seekers returning to the workforce, or recently unemployed and looking to get reemployed. You can really tailor it down. And like I said, you could create a lesson on Facebook that you then can reuse in any of these other iterations or the other versions of the program. It's really easy and to do that kind of complex work. But on the other hand, it is more complex. It's a fair investment on your end as a provider, because you have to set it all up, you have to monitor it, you have to create the workshops, you have to do the curricular construction, there's a lot more infrastructure that you have to deal with. So it's a bigger step, but if you try it out a smaller version and decide you really want to invest in this, that would be a great way to go. The last question is how long? The original program's 23 things, I mean, the duration is kind of in the title. You would get through 23 things and then you were done. 23 things seems very manageable. It's a nice short-term commitment for you as staff and for your participants on their side, because they finish their 23 things over however many weeks, and then at the end they're done and they have a very specific sense of accomplishment. That's very positive. That's very nice. We like that. We like feeling done. You can also, so that's a good reason to have a fixed duration program. Also, as I mentioned just now, you can have different versions of this for different programs. The Darien, Connecticut Library did a 23 things for parents. You could again have one for seniors. You could have one for job seekers. You could have one for college students. You know, here's some great tools you may not know about yet. They may be digital natives. That doesn't mean they know what's out there necessarily. We can help teach them. So you could do that. The other option is to do a continuous program, a rolling program. There is no start. There is no finish. People, I mean, you start, obviously, you start generating your content and writing your posts, but no one's expected to be done by the end of this. It's just a continuous ongoing program. If you've got a library that's got a continuous storytime program, you understand how that feels. You know, every week there's the weekly storytime or the weekly film program, and it's just there. And if people drop in, they drop out, and you can have this work in your favor as well by having more flexibility to play with interesting things. You can swap out ideas or tools as they come up with them, because, you know, if you've got a 23 things program, you're kind of stuck with what you've chosen to focus on, because if you play around with it too much, you have to drop out some of what you've chosen to do. By having a continuous program, if there is a sudden new awe-inspiring thing that comes out, you can ditch whatever you were planning on doing next and do a post on that instead. You get that flexibility. Again, and also there's a lot of work invested in creating these programs. Having to restart, saying, okay, we finished 23 things number 1, now we're doing 23 things number 2, or 23 things number 3. Having to restart just to add more content. Sequels get tiring after a while, and, you know, as Star Trek X comes out, you have to look at it and go, wait a minute, at what point do we just start over? At what point do we figure out a different way to do this? Which brings me
Jennifer,
to the program I've constructed.
Before you go on to that, we do
sure.
have a question from our audience, and I'm going to attempt to unmute. You should be unmuted.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go. It's Michael has a question. This is Michael Sowers, our Technology Innovation Librarian here at the Library Commission, who's listening in, just for complete disclosure here.
In fact, I'm listening in in listening in. I'm taking a break from writing this month's thing in our program.
Ah.
And Jennifer, honestly, I'm not here to give you a hard time this time.
Yay!
Well, you were talking about tools and your comments about creating lots of dead blogs, which I'm starting to come around to. My thought was, and I guess just get your response on this, is creating a program where the program is still blog-based, but instead of every participant creating their own blog and then writing a comment on each thing that says, hey, my blog post is over here, just have them write directly into the comments of the program's blog so that kind of everything's in one place, but you still have that nice, simple, easy, organized blogging platform.
Sure, absolutely. My reasoning, as you heard, for not doing a solely blog-based or not blog-based the way that it was originally done, I guess is probably more accurate, is, again, to avoid the abandoned blog concept. But if you feel that you can create that kind of environment within just the program blog, then by all means. I mean, that particularly if you're not looking at that many participants. Again, it's also a bit of a scalability question. You know, how many comments do you actually want to have to read? Also, how long do you want to keep comments open on a particular post? I know some blog platforms will time out after 2 weeks. I mean, depending on what you set it as. You can set it to stay open indefinitely. You can set it to close comments after a certain amount of time. That's a piece of the question. I present the various tools not prescriptively, though I do have opinions, certainly.
Fair enough.
But more just to show that there are pluses and minuses to each of them. And I went with the setup I went with because I felt it was the way I could leverage the pluses and minuses of the various tools to work with the community that I have to work with, which definitively is big and diverse. And
sure.
Yeah, so that was my choice. Also, if part of it is the interactivity between the program organizers and the participants, then making sure that the comment monitoring stays on for all the posts, even hopefully from 2 years prior. Again, that's just another piece of oversight and management that you've got to work on.
Sure.
And it's true of if you're dealing with a Facebook page, if you're dealing with a wiki comments or what have you. But it's again just a thing to be thinking about, one way or the other.
Thanks.
Cool. Hi.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm muting you now, Michael. Unless you have something else to contribute. No. Okay. So anyone else have any questions before we do jump into what the actual program at Boston Public Library did? Does anybody else have any questions at this point? You can type them into the questions section of your GoToWebinar interface. And as I said, that's how I got Michael's question. I knew he wanted one. He was typing in there. So let me know if you have any questions in there. I can read them to Jennifer, or we can unmute you just like I did with Michael, and you can ask on your own microphone if you do have one.
All right.
Oh, nothing right now. So if you do, like I said, just type them in there. I've got an eye on it. Go ahead.
All right. You may after the next couple of sections.
Yes.
So Learning for Life Online at the Boston Public Library is the very hard-won title for the program that I created. There was a lot of brain power. Coming up with, I have to say, one of the hardest parts of all of this was, in fact, coming up with a catchy title. I kind of got the staff version for free because I just was thinking about it. And in case you don't know, the Boston Public Library's main building is directly in front of the finish line for the Boston Marathon. So for a program that was based out of the Boston Public Library, it seemed like a fairly natural fit, and the metaphor was good. I decided against it because obviously I wanted to go past 26.2 things with the public program, and I also wanted to get away from the metaphor a little bit. So I went with Learning for Life Online, where you can, it's learning for life. It's life online. It's learning for life online. You can put the emphasis wherever you like. And it still describes the program pretty accurately. It is a free, ongoing, online learning platform. That's the elevator pitch that I use. A new tool or technology or concept is introduced each week on Monday. I did go with a rolling start and no finish. I did want that open-endedness to give myself the flexibility to basically do whatever I wanted to. There were several modes of online interaction. I have the new public library catalog, which is a social catalog, blog comments, discussion forums, Twitter posts, and a Facebook page and its wall. And I also decided that I was going to put into the proposal, though not start off with, possible social events and in-person trainings, because one of the pieces of feedback that I got from the staff training program was that people were looking for that. They weren't looking necessarily to come into a workshop each week, but they were looking for some real-life, physical, 3D space element to kind of take it out of just that online world and make it feel more real for the people who needed that. So I paid attention to that and put it into the proposal, though as a later piece of this puzzle for reasons that will become obvious momentarily. The timeline for this concept, I first presented this idea at Internet Librarian in 2009, where it was very well received by the librarians there. And then I started developing it. At the time, I was still working out in a branch. I was not yet a web services librarian. So whatever I was going to be able to do was going to have to be something I could fit in with my branch schedule. Then in the meanwhile, they were also trying to work on increasing the number of folks we have in our web services department. We are now up to 2. If you can do math, that means that's me plus my boss. And so that happened last year. In February of 2000, that's a typo, in February of 2011, I submitted the first proposal for what this program could look like to our senior management, and started the process of getting buy-in and getting people to sign off and getting permission to use my time for it, et cetera, et cetera. But that actually went fairly quickly, far more quickly than the screen would have you know. So 5 months later, it was July, and I soft launched. I had developed some content, and I put it out there. So that was 4 months ago. 4 months ago. The model I decided to go with has 4 parts. I started with a WordPress site as the main website for the program. That's where all of the content gets posted each week. That's where all the links are. That's where all the information about the program is housed. And all of that is on actually our servers here. We're not using WordPress. We're not using a cloud-based WordPress installation. We're using the WordPress installation we have locally. I supplemented that with a Facebook page because I'm a big believer in go where your users are, and the number of Facebook users in the United States is in the millions. I'm not sure if it's in a billion yet. I don't have that statistic right at hand. If anybody does, awesome. I also wanted to have a Twitter presence because we actually do have a fairly strong Twitter following here in Boston for the library. So I figured I would add a piece that's put content out where they are. Also, it's a really easy way for people to use it as an RSS feed. It's a really easy way for people to search for it using Twitter. It's another way that it'll show up in a Google search for the program, etc. And then the 4th element, as I said, we're going to be those in-person events eventually. So this is what it looks like. I sadly cannot take credit for the header image on this one. I did in fact find it online in Flickr, but it's awesome. And it adds that level of humor that I wanted to bring to it. And this, again, is the main website, blog.bpl.org/lifeonline. And that is where, as you can see, each of the individual posts are. There are 3 boxes here. These are just the 4 different sections of each post. I try to follow the same format each week. If the tool or the topic doesn't lend itself to this format, I don't force it into the format. I allow the topic to define how it looks. But a second element of feedback that I got from the staff training program was they really appreciated how I made it relevant, how I made each tool relevant, how I showed how it was actually useful to real people, TM. So the first section is what is it? The second section is how is it useful? And it just goes into a description of that. The third, since a piece I forgot to mention at the beginning is there is no registration for this program. People are not signing up somehow. Again, this is a choice I made. You get to make different choices depending on your community and your needs and your thoughts on this matter. I decided, since I had a potential viewing audience of over 800,000 people, that trying to manage registrations was going to make me insane. So I decided against it. And that I would collect other metrics to look at usage and look at success. But since it's not a registration-based program, the try it out is simply, here's this thing I've introduced. Here are some ways that you can go give it a whirl and see if it's a tool that works for you and something that you want to include in your life online. And finally, a help resources section at the end, going beyond whatever links I've already included. This is a Facebook page.
Jennifer, can you hold on just a second? Yep. Your sound is getting a little weird and garbled. Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, did that help? I just tilted my
No, it sounds like it's something with the buffering of the system, possibly.
Shoot. It's hitting noon. It could just be our network getting overloaded.
Oh.
Yeah. We have a lot of users on the network at noon because everybody's checking their email. Let me see if I can wrap this up quickly. Is it really bad, or is it just...
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, it's, someone described it, it's like you sound like a Cylon.
Awesome.
Robotic.
Huh.
Yeah.
Great.
There's not a lot I can do from my end, unfortunately. It's just to hope that it clears up. Or have you, wait, go ahead and try talk again.
Okay, let me...
It's cleared up.
It's cleared up? Okay, it was temporary. Quick,
yes.
Let's finish.
Apparently it cleared up, yes.
Okay, so this is the Facebook page, blah, 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 and you can see the individual posts. I just put up a post, but I'll also put up additional information and additional tools as they come up. Similarly for Twitter, I'll do a combination. You can see there the post number 22, oops, typo, 22, 21, and 20, and then a note about major Facebook changes to be announced later today. That's the kind of stuff that's going out over that feed. And then finally, this is a quick picture of our social public catalog. I don't have a lot of content yet there, but that's going to be in process as well. And if you just go to our website, www.bpl.org, you can see the social catalog there as well, if you'd like. Possible real-world training components. Again, this is just kind of building on the topics that would be included in this online program and brainstorming different real-world bits and pieces that could follow along with it. For actual trainings and workshops, we have a lot of Flickr collections that we're putting a lot of our print and photograph collections online, the ones that are that are in the public domain, or that we have permission to do so. So we could do a tagging workshop using those, teaching tagging. Facebooking with the grandkids. I'm actually going to be doing something like that next week. And then using other ways to use Twitter. So again, just taking the topics and the tools that are introduced in the online program and coming up with interesting ways to do in-person workshops as well, just to connect that to what they're learning online. For social events, you can use Meetup, you can use Doodle, you can use any of the little social media coordinating tools that are out there to coordinate social meetups at branches, at locations. You can teach the tools by using them. And that's another piece of all of this, is being practical, being relevant, showing how these things actually get used by real people in real life to do this kind of work. And if you really want to go there, you could create an unconference, both on-site or off-site. Another idea that a reference librarian I had working with me in the branch was to bring the book discussion group out to the bars and or to a coffee shop and use social media tools like Meetup or a Facebook event to promote those. Use the tools to promote the training about the tools. Some quick talks about registration and outcomes.
Before you go on to that, Jennifer, we do have a couple of questions.
Yep.
One is, I think you mentioned at the beginning already, about have you used the same format when you did for staff training? I know that was what you did first, but was it pretty much the same?
No. When I did the staff training, it was strictly blog-based. It was a clone of the original 23 Things program. Because it was 2008 and I hadn't had these great ideas yet.
Yes,
so,
yes, that's how everyone was doing it, yes.
Yeah, everyone was doing it that way. Also, some of this stuff didn't exist yet. WordPress hadn't quite gotten there, for instance. So, yeah, okay. Next question.
And have you done or do you plan to do a session on Evernote?
Not yet. I am only, let's see, what am I, 25, I think, is the next post. So I've got plenty of space. It'll come. It will come. I haven't used Evernote personally, so I'm kind of running with stuff I'm familiar with that I can get up to speed on quickly. And then I'm hoping to expand my own knowledge of, and this is a great thing about doing this kind of program, is the organizers get to expand what they know about social computing tools as much as the participants do, because in order to keep coming up with post ideas, you've got to be on top of what's out there too. So it's good professional development for you as well as for them.
Oh, absolutely, because we've had to come up with new ones every month here with our ongoing sessions and our ongoing 23 Things program. And
Yep.
yes, every time. Now, what am I going to do this month? And coming up with something, yes.
What in the heck am I going to talk about now?
And actually, another question from the same person, is it possible for us to participate in one of your programs to observe how it works?
Sure. Let me get through the next couple of slides, though, before we get there.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
So I mentioned at the beginning, are there any other questions right now? I know we're running close on time, and there's a few more things I need to get through, but I'm happy to take questions.
Yep, no, we started about 5 after, so we'll go till then. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a non-registration based program. If you've got registration, your outcomes and measures are actually a lot easier because you know who you're dealing with. But when you do things drop in and potentially anonymously, it's a lot harder. There's a lot more going on. So if you're not looking at straight up sign-up numbers and completion ratios like a more traditional workshop series, what else are you looking for? Well, for one thing, you don't want to see quantitatively, when you're talking about the numbers, you don't just want to see high totals because people will come in, people will drop out, people will friend you, people will unfriend you, people will check your website, and then they'll stop for a while as life becomes too busy. So what you want to see is aggregate growth, not just single high totals, or not just, you want to see some consistency in those numbers and growth over time. And quantitatively, you can look at all sorts of statistics, which we'll get to in a moment. Qualitatively, a quote I used to have in this presentation talks about, there are some very successful blogs out there, some very successful sites that have almost no comments. It used to be people would mark the success of a site by its comments, and this kind of comes back, Michael, to what you had asked about earlier. People don't necessarily comment. I can't tell you the last time I commented on a public blog of any kind. Comments aren't necessarily something people do. So it's not, when you're looking at the qualitative measures, kind of the softer measures, it's not just about them talking with you. It's about your users talking about you with other people, with each other, sharing, retweeting, forwarding, trackbacks and pingbacks on the blog, the blog or the platform or the website. Those kinds of things are as important to measure and as useful to measure as just the number of comments on the blog. So what are we looking for? Lots of things. We're looking for comments because, hey, those are there. We're looking for if you can track the sorts of things that are downloaded and uploaded. If you've got a Flickr page, for instance, you can monitor those. How many times are things clicked through on? If you've put out a widget, how many times is that installed? Are you monitoring reviews of you, of your program, of what else is going on? Testimonials, if you've gotten any anecdotal testimonials, emails, posts, tweets, what have you. Setting up Google Alerts for the name of the program, for variations on the name of the program, for kind of word combinations that would get you mentions of your program, even if they don't mention it by name. All of those things can help contribute to the volume of outcome measurement that we have available to us, the amount of relevance and statistical relevance. If you're using Google Analytics to monitor your website or monitor your blog, you can look at how much time people spend on pages. You can watch their paths through the site. What pages do they look at? What pages do they look at first, second, and third? Do they actually click through on the interior links on the posts, etc.? Fans and followers, again, trackbacks and pingbacks on a blog, subscribers and number of unsubscribers, who's dropping out. That's also important. Retweets, referrals, and forwards. I mean, all of these, and these are metrics you can use for your library's organizational social media as well. This is not just about this program. This is, using Facebook Insights to find out how people are looking at and using your Facebook page for your library. I mean, that's what all of this is good for. And I'm beginning to chuckle because we're beginning to get to the outcomes portion of this. You can see, again, Google Analytics is good to monitor visits, site visits, page views, average time on site, and the amount of detail you can get from a Google Analytics, I mean, there are entire presentations on Google Analytics. Go forth and find them because they're awesome. And they'll really get at the meat of this. But this shows you can just get a lot out of it, even just doing a basic cursory look at what they've got available to you. They also are doing now in-page analytics, so you can see what percentage of people actually click on or view individual parts of your page, and this is all real time, so it'll change in real time. It's kind of cool. On Facebook, the shares, you can now see shares. You can try, if you've got a page on Facebook, you can click on the N number of people shared this, and you can actually click through and get those shares and actually look at the text and capture that using a screenshot or something else. You can see on each post, it'll tell you how many impressions, how many people's friends' pages did this show up on, and how many people might have seen it there. As I said, you can view one share and then see the text for it up above. You can get all that information there. If there were comments on the post, you'd be able to capture those as well. And that's just looking at the page itself. If you actually go into the insights, you'll start to get demographic information, page views, interactivity, where they're coming from, Google IE. Really, we've got somebody from Ireland. Excellent. Or at least using Google Ireland to do it. You can get all of this data from Google Insights as well, and you can do it but you should capture it monthly because it is restricted to how far back it goes. You can, for Twitter, for your Twitter feed, you can use tools like Twitalizer or Twitter Grader to actually measure the impact of your Twitter feed. There's a great tool called Social Mention that will both show mentions of your organization or your program and also do some basic analysis of it. And this is available for free. It's just kind of out there. It's not perfect, but it'll certainly give you some good first guesstimates on what kind of impact you're having. And then, of course, traditional measurements, attendance, anecdotal information, surveys, feedback forms, all that outcome measurement stuff that we're very used to in the library field. It is not a librarian presentation until there's a picture of a cat, I'm convinced. Yes, this is all soft stuff, but yes, it can also be measured. It's harder. There's a lot more parts to the pie, but it's doable, and it's completely doable by anybody. Lessons and challenges. I'm going to take what can be a long spiel about what I've learned from this, putting this program together, and condense it down to just a couple of images. Ooh, that got bitmappy when it got bigger. Oops. So this is what it felt like when I first came up with this program. I had all these great ideas. I had all this enthusiasm. I had 2,000 horsepower raring to go, full steam ahead. And that's kind of what it ended up as. One of the issues with this is that we have another program of laptop training and lending that's been going on. It's a huge grant-funded program, and it has been developing at exactly the same time that I've been developing Learning for Life Online. And in the interest of not causing confusion, we decided that we were going to wait to really push Learning for Life online until more of that laptop training and program was ready to go. Suffice to say, they have been bogged down in the size, scale, and scope of their program, and there has not yet been that giant push that I was hoping for. So right now, as it stands, I have a beautifully appointed program with lots of great content, nearly 25 posts, a good Facebook page, very interesting, very usable, totally reader-friendly, and no one's cooking. I don't believe I currently have any or more than a couple, a small handful of participants, and that is purely because of lack of word of mouth and lack of promotion within the institution. So because, as I said, we have been waiting to promote it heavily until this other program was underway so as not to confuse the two. That is hopefully changing in the remaining parts of the fall, and I hope to have a very different version of this presentation to make come spring with a lot more good statistical usage to show and a lot more feedback. But my major lesson for this is make sure you know what you're getting into when you're getting into it, and make sure you have contingency plans for what happens if you set up the party and nobody comes, because that's a really hard thing to have finally realized. In addition, and that also creates the small problem of, kind of tipping point. How do you get enough people so that it's worth it for the participants? And that's something I'm continuing to struggle with to this day. Because one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to create a place where everybody's online alone. As Michael said, you do want that ability to comment, to interact, to have discussions happen in the context of your learning platform. And so trying to brainstorm and be mindful of how you promote the program such that you do get that critical mass going needs to be an important piece of the planning process. Also, just a quick tech update, and Michael saw this happen in real time actually at the conference. I discovered that we had changed the setup of our web WordPress sites that we have, and in so doing we accidentally broke the Google Analytics on them. So I lost about a month and a half, 2 months worth of Google Analytics because the site analytics were broken. This is problematic because there were apparently a lot of people looking at the site on the 19th of September, except I don't have the statistics for that because they didn't kick back in until mid-October. So fortunately I have the Facebook documentation of that, and we'll see how that goes. So when you're just doing it, learn from my mistakes, learn from the mistakes of other people who've tried to put this program together, get buy-in from all your support providers, hitch it to a project that's on, or better yet, ahead of schedule. That's always great. Keep it simple. Have a team, more than one person. I can tell you from experience, it's hard to do this by yourself. Even if you're serving a small community, there's a lot to think about, and having a team allows you to both distribute work and also brainstorm off of each other and get better ideas by having more brains involved. Choose a model that works for you. If the blog alone works for you, then great. If not, choose a model that will work for you. Ask yourself what sorts of tools your users are already using, and then start small and scale up. And as I've been doing, keep going. Even if there's no audience yet, they will come. You will find that tipping point. It will happen. Have faith. And just continue to build content, because then when they do show up, they've got weeks worth of stuff that they can go back and review. You can do this. And there were some brainstorming ideas. Look at tools. Know that you're going to have to adapt on the fly, and think about what kind of in-person things you might also incorporate into this. But really, just decide on your scope, assemble your team, set up your online spaces, determine your structure, though really that should come first. Create your content, promote, launch, promote some more, and offer a new service and help your users more than you already are. With that, I would say thank you, and these last few slides are just some folks who have done public training programs, and you can go take a look at their programs. They are available to be looked at for inspiration for how you might do it going forward. As I mentioned, Darien, Connecticut did one for parents. And all of these, I'm just going to show you these next screens as I say these. All of these, this presentation is available on SlideShare. Krista now has the URL for that, and she'll be getting that going. This is what I talk about when I say having to restart can be problematic.
Yes, we will have the PowerPoint will be uploaded, and all of the links that are in this PowerPoint are added to our Delicious account here at the Library Commission, where you'll be able to get access to all of them. So don't worry about having to try and scribble down all those URLs. We'll have hot links for you when the recording goes up.
Which, of course, I should have said at the beginning of all of this before you started scribbling all of those things.
I usually try to, too, and I didn't.
Yeah. I hope that if you've been watching this program and listening to Krista and Michael, as long as you have, you know that they do that. So here's hoping that you weren't breaking yourself trying to keep up with me, because the normal disclaimer I have is, hi, I'm a native New Yorker who lives in New England, so I talk fast and think faster. But that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are any last questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I was glad to hear your full presentation on this. I attended a session at Internet Librarian in Monterey last month that was a very mini version of this talk. So it was very good to hear the whole thing this time.
Yeah.
Does anybody have... Yes. Does anybody have any...
You think I talk fast today?
Yeah.
Wrap-up question.
Anybody have any questions you'd like to ask? You can type into the question sections or have me unmute you, and I can do that. Just a comment. Very interesting and well-organized presentation. Good job, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Well, if you don't have any pressing questions right now, you do have all of her contact information in this PowerPoint, obviously, which, as I said, will be linked to when we have the recording that goes up. So you can, of course, get in touch with her about anything else that you might want to ask.
And going back to the person who asked if they can participate, the reason I said wait until later is because, like I said, there isn't a lot of participation going on now. I hope there to be in the very near future. But by all means, feel free, friend the page on Facebook, keep it in your RSS feed. The content is there, and the kind of stealth functionality is we're not doing a 23 Things program for staff here at the BPL. But by all means, staff are welcome to participate and to follow along and use this, because a thing I always say in staff training is staff are users of the libraries too, and they are entitled to all of the training that we have available for our public, and they should be doing it as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Or could be doing it as well.
Okay, doesn't look like any last-minute questions have come in while we're talking, so I am going to pull back control here and just show this is our current, just promoting our Learning 2.0 program. Our Nebraska Learns 2.0 program here for Nebraska libraries, staff, board members, whoever, is a monthly ongoing program that we have, and this is our webpage for it. Just wanted to remind people that hopefully today or tomorrow our thing for the month of November will be up and posted. As Michael said, he is working on that as we speak, hopefully. And it will be about Google+. So if you're interested in wanting to know what the heck that's all about, if you've been in it and don't get it, if you've not been in it and want to know what it's all about, he will have the thing up that will be on the site for that within today or tomorrow. And, whoops, I need to go back to my correct page here. And so thank you very much, Jennifer. That was great. I think it was great. We got some, like I said, as I said, some good good info from you about hopefully how other places will be able to do this, or follow along with how you guys get along doing it. Maybe some other sometime in the future you can give us an update.
Absolutely.
When you do get to go live with it.
Well, it's live. It's all out there in the public world, and one of the things I've been able to track using the Google Analytics and also the Facebook Insights are the referrals. You know, who's finding it anyway via search on Google, via search on any other search engine, and you know, definitely there have been some. So with no promotion whatsoever, people are still finding it. So it's out there.
People will come across things, yes, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jennifer. Just to wrap up for today, I hope you, anyone who wants to, will join us next week for our NCompass Live session, which will be about volunteering. Our volunteer services coordinator for our Talking Book and Braille service here at the Nebraska Library Commission, Annette Hall, will be talking about how to get volunteers to help out at your library. So sign up for that, and we'll see you next week for that session of NCompass Live. So thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.